Warning: the following imagery and content may be disturbing or unsuitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Throughout history, unnatural occurrences have been on the rise, and it's only natural that we, as human beings, begin to seek them out to uncover the truth. Scary stories, urban legends, unresolved mysteries, or otherwise. In this episode of Obscure Occurrences, we'll be presenting you with 3 stories, 2 of which are fiction, one which is a frightening truth. It's your job to deduce the fact from the fake. Sit back, relax, and prepare your minds for these obscure occurrences.
Welcome to Obscure Occurrences. My name is McKenna, and with me I have my friends Kylie and Chelsea. Today I'll be starting you off with our first possibly true story of the Puppeteer. Anatoly Moskvin was a man born in Russia that did not have an easy life. In the 3rd grade, he walked home with bruises from being assaulted by an unknown man. It is unknown if Moskvin ever told his story to his parents, but they did notice he had an odd behavior. But as Soviets, however, they only thought that this was his intelligence that made it hard for him to make friends and to interact with people. He was very good in school and was always at the top of his class, but was often ostracized at school. One day, 13-year-old Moskvin stumbled into the yard of an occult member. He was caught and they dragged him into the house and told him to kiss the face of a dead girl in a coffin, whose name was Natasha Petrova. Moskvin refused, crying and begging to be let go, but the occult members would not let him move. Eventually, he gave in and kissed the girl 3 times on the forehead before they made him put a ring on Natasha's finger and one on his own, stating that the two were now married. They let Moskvin go, but he had started having dreams of Natasha for a good year, insisting that he learn black magic from her, to which he refused. He finally told his parents about Natasha, and they decided to seek out medical advice, but the doctor only passed it off as Moskvin transitioning into puberty. Natasha managed to get him to practice black magic by carrying out a ceremony using a tooth from one of his classmates. After the ceremony was complete, he never saw her again. Moskvin visited Natasha's grave frequently, his experience with black magic opening his eyes to the occult and kick-started his interest in cemeteries. In 2003, Moskvin and his girlfriend started talking about having a child, but due to Moskvin's vow to celibacy, they decided to adopt. Moskvin had always loved teaching children and wanted to raise one as his own, but the adoption center rejected him because his earnings were too low. In the summer of 2005, Moskvin hit the road assisted by historian Oleg Ryabov. The pair planned to publish a book, and for Moskvin's contribution would be to journey across the region documenting cemeteries and unearthing local history. For 3 years, Moskvin traveled all across Nizhny Novgorod, arriving at the cemeteries in the evening, writing down all the information that was on the tombstones. After being involved with suspicious activity that led authorities to believe he might be a terrorist or an extremist, they raided his apartment in search of any extremist materials, but instead ended up finding his vast collection of odd-looking dolls. As the authorities searched the house, they realized that the 29 life-size dolls would rattle when shaken, and when they had opened them up, they found mummified human remains inside. All of the dolls were discovered to be holding human remains of deceased girls ranging from ages 3 to 30. They all had clothing on, with wax covering their faces, along with paint and nail polish. They were all over the house, even some of them staying in his parents' bedroom. Moskvin's parents had no idea what really was inside of the dolls that their son would bring home. Up next, Kylie will bring you our next story, White with Red.
Welcome to our second story, White with Red. A man and his wife went to a hotel and walked up to the front desk to check in. The woman at the front desk gave him his key and told him and his wife that on his way to their room, there was a door with no number that was locked and no one was allowed in there, especially no one should look inside the room under any circumstances. So they followed the instructions of the woman at the front desk, going straight to their room and going to bed. The next night, their curiosity got the best of them about the room with no number on the door. They walked down the hall to the door and they tried the handle. Sure enough, it was locked. He bent down and looked through the wide keyhole. Cold air passed through it, chilling his eye. What he saw was a hotel bedroom like his, and in the corner was a woman whose skin was completely white. She was leaning her head against the wall, facing away from the door. He stared in confusion for a while, but then asked his wife to look and see what she thinks. He almost knocked on the door, but out of curiosity to make sure the woman was okay, but decided not to. This resistance saved their life. He crept away from the door and walked back to their room. The next day, he returned to the door and looked through the wide keyhole. This time, all he saw was redness. He couldn't make anything out besides a distinct color of red, unmoving. Perhaps the inhabitants of the room knew he was spying on them the night before and had blocked the keyhole with something red. At this point, he decided not to consult the woman at the front desk for more. She sighed and said, "Did you look through the keyhole?" The man told her that she said, "Well, I might as well tell you the story. A long time ago, a man murdered his wife in that room, and her ghost haunts it. But these people were not ordinary. They were white all over except for their eyes, which were red." That same night, he had a feeling that came over him. He told his wife that he didn't feel good and was going to go to sleep. They turned on the TV and fell asleep soon after. At 3:30 a.m., she woke up cold and saw something standing over her with red eyes. She turned to see if her husband was awake, but he wasn't there. The next day, at the checkout, the lady at the front desk was wondering where she went to the room and knocked, but there was no response. She went and got an extra key and then opened the door. She wasn't expecting to find what she did. The husband's wife was dead on the bed, and the husband was gone and nowhere to be found. After the break, Chelsea will read our final story before we reveal which is true.
Welcome back. I'll be reading this story from the perspective of the writer. We bought an old house, my boyfriend and I. He's in charge of the new construction, converting the kitchen into the master bedroom, for instance, while I'm on wallpaper removal duty. The previous owner papered every wall and ceiling. Removing it is brutal, but oddly satisfying. The best feeling is getting a long peel similar to your skin when you're peeling from a sunburn. I don't know about you, but I kind of make a game of peeling, on the hunt for the longest piece before it rips. Under a corner section of paper in every room is a person's name and a date. Curiosity got the best of me one night when I Googled one of the names and discovered the person was actually a missing person. Her name was Grace Williams. She was only 15 and went missing on October 6, 1983. The missing date matching the dates under the wallpaper. The next day, I made a list of all the names and dates. Sure enough, each name was for a missing person with dates to match. Andrea Smith, age 22, went missing August 4th, 1997. Maya Sanders, age 11, went missing June 4th, 1996. Tyler Roberts, age 18, went missing December 12th, 1999. Skylar Brooks, age 13, went missing July 12th, 2000. Casper Norris, age 15, went missing November 2nd, 2004. We notified the police, who naturally sent out the crime scene team. I overheard one tech say,
"Yep, it's human."
"What's human, ma'am?"
"Ma'am, where is the material you removed from the walls already? This isn't wallpaper you were removing."
I lost my composure at this point. I didn't know what she meant by "it was human," but she wouldn't tell me anything further about what she meant. After that night, I had a weird feeling in my gut about this house, but my boyfriend blew it off, saying everything was fine and I was overreacting. I said I guess and went to take a shower and get ready to go to sleep because tomorrow was going to be busy. As I was getting in the shower, I heard a knock on the closet door in the bathroom, followed with a little girl's giggle. I didn't think anything of it. Maybe one of the neighbor girls snuck in to pull a prank on the new house owner. But as I was going to open the closet door, I realized we didn't have neighbors for miles. We were in the middle of the woods. I finished my shower and started calling out for my boyfriend, but there was no response. I got dressed quick and went to find him in the room, eating his dinner. He was acting different. I heard the little girls giggle again. It was leading down the basement stairs. No one has been down there yet. That was what we were going to work on tomorrow. I started walking to the basement door, and my boyfriend followed close behind, mimicking the laugh. When I got down there, I found a room with trays, clothes on the floor, and blankets, as if someone was camping. Then I realized it was a piece of clothing from one of the missing girls, and my stomach dropped. As I went to pick up the shirt to get a better look at it, I heard a deep voice behind me say,
I guess she found my hiding spot.
After the break, we'll reveal which of these frightening tales actually happened. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Now that you've heard our 3 cases, which one seems the most genuine to you? Which 2 sound like a work of fiction? Take a moment to review the stories and make a verdict, and we will reveal the answer shortly. Finally, if you guessed the Puppeteer story to be true, you'd be right. While Moskvin traveled, he wrote frequently, some of his work being criticized by the public and even catching the eye of Russia's Department of Internal Affairs. He was accused of extremist activity and later on a fascist, following his book talking about the history of the swastika as a solar symbol up until the 19th century. In 2011, bombings in the Domodedovo International Airport led to a lot of anti-Muslim activity and the desecration of Muslim grave sites. Moskvin was seen at a Muslim cemetery, painting the tombstones and posting news articles onto them. This prompted the search of his house and was the reason Moskvin's secret was discovered. Over the course of 10 years, Moskvin was collecting corpses to mummify and keep in his house, believing that he would be able to resurrect them with his black magic. On May 9, 2003, it was the first time he dug up the first body. Shortly after being rejected by the adoption company and arguing about it with his parents, in an interview with Moskvin, he explained how he managed to pull the body out of the coffin by drilling a hole. He explains how he used varying salts and sodas to mummify the body and how he dressed it up and brought it back home with him.
I wanted to revive them,
Moskvin said.
I felt sorry for these children. I kept them so that when science learns to fight cancer, it can later revitalize them. Genetics are developing now very rapidly. I felt sorry for all of these children.
His trial began on May 12, 2012. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and sent to a psychiatric facility. His case gets reviewed every 6 months and has caused quite a lot of division in Russia, with the families of the dolls wanting him to be imprisoned for the rest of his life, others wanting the death penalty. There had been reports that Moskvin was being beaten and drugged to a catatonic state while he was in the ward, and that his lawyer wants him to be moved to a different facility and possibly even resume his recovery at home. Moskvin's future has not been determined yet, but if he is to be released, he would like to return to work and marry his anonymous bride that graduated from the same facility as he did years after.
Да, я очень хотел ребенка, мне очень хотелось, чтобы была своя дочка, да, чтобы передать ей все те знания, которые у меня есть, у меня большая библиотека, да, вообще, вот, очень хотелось, но первое время, да, мне не давали родители, они думали, что я не справлюсь, потом, видя, насколько я это хочу, родители мне разрешили, но там возникли проблемы с органами опеки и попечительства, поскольку, да, сказали, что у меня маленькая зарплата, а я действительно никогда не стремился за деньгами, я всегда стремился, чтобы была польза, и чтобы был ответственно приобрел, да, достаточно большой опыт в этом деле. Да, тех детей, которые мне нравились, я сушил, воскрешал, да, приносил к себе домой.
А что делали дома с ним?
I know that a lot of the people that he would dig up were people that usually died from like a very gruesome and violent circumstance. Like one of the dolls that he got was a little girl named Olga, I think, but she had been murdered. And so when her parents found out that they not only lost their daughter once, but twice, a second time, they were not very happy. And I believe the mother of the girl started a whole campaign telling, they didn't want him back home. They wanted to keep him in prison because they were so upset with the fact that, she would go and visit her daughter's grave for years, not knowing that her daughter was no longer there.
Yeah.
And I know there were some people, I know that I think the court wanted him to pay back a fine to every single family member whose, relative that they dug up. But I know some people obviously wanted that fine, but some people didn't. Like, I know this one family who they would not accept his money because they felt like he took better care of their child in death than they ever did when they were alive. And yeah, it's very interesting. Like the pictures of the dolls are freaky looking. They're not
I saw a few pictures.
Yeah, they're not pretty. If you saw that in the middle of the night, you'd be scared. I don't understand why his parents, how do you just get away with that for 10 years?
Right.
Because mummification takes quite a process. It's not just something you can do in 24 hours. Mummification, and there's a lot that comes with it. There's a lot of science that comes with it in doing it right. So yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how his parents never knew and never tried to correct his behavior. This man's maybe in his 30s, 40s with a bunch of dolls.
Yeah, I don't get how someone can just do that. If you just wake up one day and think, hey, I'm gonna go dig someone up.
Yeah, but he was also mentally ill and had a lot of trauma in his life when he was a child. And he wasn't like a necrophiliac. He wasn't like a creeper or a pervert or anything. He felt like he was genuinely helping these corpses. He wanted to bring them back and he wanted to take care of them. And he said in the interview that he had a whole language with them. Yeah, he created a whole different language to talk to them with. But yeah, it's just weird. And I think it's cool that you guys, did both of you guys write your stories?
Yeah. I didn't. I got it off the Creepypasta website. It's one of my favorite, besides stuff I color and stuff. But yeah,
that's very interesting. And then you wrote yours.
Yeah, I found half of it. I think I found just the boyfriend part on the internet, and then I just kind of went off on that and wrote my own.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy.
Yeah, and then where did you find? Did you just make up all those dates and names? And,
yeah.
I mean, that's very intricate. I think the thought that you put so much intricacy of their full name, the day that they went missing, the year that they went missing, I think that made it feel a lot more real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, very interesting. But yeah. And then you said you found yours off of Creepypasta?
Yeah, the website.
Yeah, and I know Creepypasta is just it's a very big thing. It's just a whole, I don't know, it's just a bunch of horror stories. I don't really know what to call it. It's not a group. It's just this big thing of lore, how Harry Potter has a whole lore,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings has a whole lore. There's no books on Creepypasta, but it's just a whole, you wish, but there's just a whole lore to it. Yeah, I think that's cool. And some people think that they're real. I know I've definitely thought that some creepypastas were real before I knew that they were creepypasta, like the Russian sleep experiment. I didn't know that was a creepypasta until I looked it up one day and I was like, oh, this is fake. But yeah, what it basically was, it was just people who were being kept captive during a war during Russia, and they were making sure that they didn't sleep to see what would happen, and a lot of stuff happened, but it just seemed so realistic, oh, maybe that actually did happen one day. And these people genuinely went insane because they haven't slept in weeks because of the chemical that they were being exposed to. But nope, I guess it was just fake. Yeah, crazy. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I just think it's crazy. But yeah, thank you for watching our very special episode of Obscure Occurrences. Remember to always be aware of your surroundings, as the impossible might just become possible when you least expect it. Join us next time. Thank you and have a good night.